Liberation greetings to all and sundry, my fellow brave warriors of the southern Cameroons, my very resilient people on ground zero. Accept liberation greetings from me, Comrade John Ba Akuro, this Sunday, January 30, 2022. I want to begin, first of all, by extending very great salutes to my friends of the Unity We Warriors and the wonderful exploits that they have had. For those who unfortunately paid the ultimate price, I want to make to you a solemn promise that our people of the southern Cameroons in their vast majority are determined that all the sacrifices will never ever go in vain. That despite the actions and gesticulations of a few who think by day and by night that they can transform our movement into a comedy show, into a popularity contest, or into just any kind of thing, that there comes a time when all these things must have to stop. And as far as the movement for the liberation of the southern Cameroons is concerned, that time that these games must stop is now. It even ought to be yesterday. My people, I like us wherever we are to continue to pay respects to all of our IDPs, to all of our refugees, to all our prisoners of war, but most especially to all of those brave hearts that stand and take it for us. You all are my heroes. We are all locked in this together, and we will only do it together. I know sometimes we listen to actors in the international community speak, but rather than picking that which will help us move forward, some in our midst prefer to pick that which fits their egos. That approach delayed our march towards freedom. It will no longer be tolerated. I like to say we, as a people, have finally come to the realization that we must bunch together, work together, synergize, and make sure we pick the best in our midst to hold certain turfs so that we are able to score the goal that is required. So that when you pass the ball to a comrade, you are certain that this comrade is the one who knows exactly what to do with the ball. And that because his eyes are looking at the net, he will score the goal. She will score the goal. Look, I'm motivated to come for us to have this discussion because of certain things that are going on, some discussions that are going on in the international community, and then because of a communication that I listened to last night. When Honorable Tibonagi Jr., or Ambassador Tibonagi Jr., I prefer to use that appellation, said that in some movements, liberation movements, it is the most violent groups that emerge and take control. Perhaps some people thought that he simply said in this age, that is what obtains. Listen, when Eritreans fought for their freedom, there was no social media in cursing. Maybe they didn't even need the voices of the masses to give them the kind of support that was required. Maybe the international community did not hold them to the standards that they are holding us today. When East Timor fought for its freedom, for its independence, It definitely was the same context and same dispensation as it was the case with Eritrea. In Southern Sudan, they were nearing the communication age, the real hardcore communication age. But fortunately for them, the social media did not have as much influence as it has today, where citizen participation has become an imperative. Today, the dynamics are different. And looking at the situation in the southern Cameroons, it is that attempt by some groups, movements, and organizations to want to ascertain that kind of state, as Ambassador Thibaut Nagy was talking about, that we saw all the drama that we have seen in the southern Cameroons with all the chaos until this moment. That we saw our brothers, our sisters turn their sticks against each other, all in the name of hegemonic wars. At a time that we're beginning to think that each and everyone in this movement is understanding that we don't need those hegemonic wars, that we don't need those hegemonic fights. I am out, shocked, embarrassed to hear people still using the I. I will not have a future in this movement. This, my people, take it from me. I'm not talking I here. I'm talking we. Not because I'm weak. Those of us who talk we is not out of weakness, not out of inability to do what those who talk I are doing. We are all capable of doing that. And take note, my people, that those who talk peace a lot, it is not because they don't have the capacity to also become a nuisance. Usually, the capacity to be a nuisance of those who talk peace is simply unimaginable, simply unthinkable by those who feel it is their exclusive preserve to always spoil the moment for everyone. I heard someone say that if another person thinks or is attempting that when they get to the ground, they become presidents or whatever, it will be World War III. And then I hear the same people come and say, I am currently providing that leadership. I am the leader, even introducing themselves in international meeting level as I'm the leader of the movement. That is not even my piece of beef. You can call yourself whatever you care. But listen, no single individual will stand on whatever pulpit to threaten the people of the southern Cameroon to contribute or not, or else, I beg your pardon, or else, that every cultural group, every Izenjangi group, every whatever group, if you don't contribute what they ask you, that power to do such is a power that will be vested in a council that represents the critical masses of the people of the southern Cameroons, that represents all the groups, movements, and organizations in this movement. We were already at that at one point under the governing council, under the leadership of Sisiko Julius Ayuk-Tabe, until we unfortunately slid into some battles of an interim government that brought us to where we are today. If all are saying it is time for us to reset, it is important for some kind of provocation to be set aside. This is not time for it. If it were a joke, consider it a bad one at this time. My people of the southern Cameroons, a good lot of us have talked peace, have talked collaboration, have talked the need for synergy for a long time. It is not because, as some say, we don't have boots. Really. I have said here a good lot of times that there will come a time when those who think that they have massive control will soon realize that theirs was a mirage. Listen, we hear often diplomats say, don't ever go to negotiate out of weakness. You negotiate because it is necessary to negotiate, not out of weakness. And that is what I've said 1,001 times, that the people of the southern Cameroons will go to the negotiation table with La République du Cameroon, but not out of weakness, not out of fear of failure. But because La République du Cameroon would have attained that stage, that they know that without negotiations, there is no way they will pull out honorably out of the southern Cameroons. When you say you will tax, I will. Come on. This is not the southern Cameroons I came out to give my life and everything for. And no one would take us down that route. And talking these contributions, let us be frank, let us be honest, and let us be fair. All the groups claiming to have boots or whatsoever have been raising funds from the same public, from the same southern Cameroonians. How many times have you also been held to the same standards like we have been holding those of the IG group? It is not because the light has been shone more on that side. That is the only thing you can come out there. Anybody can come out there and say, you either contribute to me or how have you also been using this money? The fear of a general collective effort that solidifies us, gives us the ability to shorten our trip, to shorten our march towards freedom, is what is sending freaks in the minds of some people. Let me be clear here. My people of the southern Cameroons, a good lot of you call me on a daily basis and say, talk to your brothers, talk to this one, talk to that one. I do. A good lot of you reach out to me every day and ask me, why is it that you are just so accessible? Why is it that you are the only one who picks calls? And they say, because the weak elements are the ones that just allow themselves, they are not building personality cult. I don't have a secretary. I don't have somebody through whom you pass. I don't have, how do you call it, a secretary of state that you want to call and assign you to. No. Why? Because in a revolution, those things don't exist. In a revolution, everybody folds their sleeves and gets down into the trenches. We are running away from personality cult. We cannot change by being the same. That is not possible. We are running away from hatred. Yet we have spent a lot of time promoting hatred amongst us. We cannot love by hating. My people of the southern Cameroons, there are some core realities that the world has begun putting before us today. In the past, they played diplomacy, played every kind of thing by just giving us all the niceties. Today, because they like us, listen to me clearly, because they like us, they have now decided to remove the niceties from the words and use words that will make us understand directly where we stand. Take a look at this. This, our comrade, Sir Clarence Official, on January 29, that's yesterday, Saturday, accosted Ambassador Tibon Nagy on Twitter and said, Ambassador Nagy, you of all people knows that the British Southern Cameroon's independence is well recognized by all. Approving, why is it so difficult for the same who voted Southern Cameroon's independent to accept and respect the international protocol? But this is a beautiful question, very beautiful question. Why beautiful? Because this is where a lot of us get misled. This is where a lot of us get blocked. And this is where a lot of us allow ourselves to be taken down the wrong hazel, down the path of the easy wrong. And we forget that it is only by embracing the path of the hard right that we will score the point. And Ambassador Nagy's response was hilarious, straight to the point. And he didn't go for the niceties. He used the words that matter. He said, I don't like pouring cold water on reasonable logic. Listen, of course, what our comrade is asking is reasonable logic, because it is logic. It's reasonable. It's normal. Over 66 countries voted for the independence of the Southern Cameroons. So today they should stand up there and defend their votes. That is logic. But that's what Ambassador Nagy says. I don't like pouring cold water on reasonable logic. But it is not, he puts the recognized by all, he quotes it from our comrade, that it is not recognized by all today. And he says, unfortunately, as I've said, geopolitical realities trump historical legalities. Did somebody hear that? Geopolitical realities trump historical legalities. We have to deal with the world as it is, but it can be changed. Now, listen. We have to deal with the world as it is. What does this tell us? I have spoken here in my previous communication about something called realpolitik. Realpolitik. You can call the word real, but when they want to call it in that light to make you know what they talk about, it is still spelled R-E-A-L, but they call it real. But politic ends with K, not with C. Realpolitik. Now, Ambassador Thibaut Nagy says one thing. I'd like to take us back there so you look at it. He says, we have to deal with the world as it is. So here, we're talking about idealism as opposed to realism. The ideal will be that the international community will recognize that Southern Cameroon was a free country. That Southern Cameroon and La République du Cameroun were all trusteeship territories. One under France, the other under Britain, under the aegis of the United Nations, with the mission to grant each one independence at the end of the trusteeship agreement. It is normal. The world will, in normal circumstances, the ideal situation will be for the 66 or so members of the United Nations who voted for the freedom of the Southern Cameroons, for independence of the Southern Cameroons, including the United States of America, to stand up and say, no, we recognize Southern Cameroons as independent. That is idealism. But we are dealing with a real world. A real world. Realism tells us that there are geopolitical realities, as he mentioned, that will be taken into consideration. In my last communication here, I talked about the geopolitics of resources. And I talked about the Gulf of Guinea, which is the one place the world considers to be the place that should be safe to move into, as opposed to the Persian Gulf in the Middle East, which is totally muddied. Now, let's look at what Ambassador Thibaut Nagy talks about geopolitics. Listen, the world is divided into spheres of influence. This is something fundamental for us to know. If you don't know this, you're oblivious to so many things, and you will never, ever be able to understand the direction we must take in our movement. Understanding this is fundamental to letting us be able to take the hard decisions that we must take. It's fundamental for those of us who are seeing this as a popularity contest to recognize it is not one. It's fundamental to those who sit and think that we should come here and caress each other's ego. Oh no, hell no. That is why I have said here, and from 2017 I've said this every day, that hate me, like me, I will tell you what it is. Because that is the only way that we will survive as a people. The world is divided into spheres of influence. And unfortunately for us, we fall within the sphere of influence of France and Britain, the French and the British. Africa, for that matter. I mean Africa, especially Black Africa, is a French and British sphere of influence. That is why, for America, Russia, and before China, to take any major kind of decision in that place, they will have to deal with France and Britain. And when I say broken into spheres of influence, it's among the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. In our case, we have 2 members of the UN Security Council on our backs. 2, not 1. So this tells us the level of the precarity of our situation. But as Ambassador Tibonagi says, we have to deal with the world as it is, but it can be changed. Now, that "but it can be changed" is something I want us to talk about. That is where we have to act. That is the opening we have as a people. But it can be changed. It can be changed when we create a de facto situation. It can be changed when we operate and make it like our friends of the Niger Delta did. The people of the Niger Delta in Nigeria did not attract the attention of the world and get the government of Nigeria to start giving them everything they wanted because they had some people fighting for leadership, or because they had some people proclaiming themselves leaders, or because they had formed a government. No. They did the needful. They went down into the trenches, they folded their sleeves, they were united behind what they wanted, and they knew who to touch. As long as the French and the British continue to sign deals on our territory and are able to get the resources they want, that is why the classified made it clear to us. The British will be behind the Swiss process because it's only one thing that assures them. It will assure them that we will end up being cowed, being subdued into accepting some kind of reform, some kind of greater respect for the English language, some kind of greater respect for the English language, my people. Listen, I've said here before that on the international scene, you have actors, or you have stakeholders, and you have stakes. Because of our position in the Gulf of Guinea, the tiny Ambazonia, we have the possibility of becoming a stakeholder. But if we choose to be a stake, we will continue to remain in the menu. Right now, we are in the menu. The only way that weak people, that people find themselves in a bad situation like ours, succeed is by bonding together. Is by making sure they come together, position their best resources, exploit these best resources in the interest of the whole. It is not by posturing, not by gesticulating, not by making lousy claims. If after 5 years, we have not yet come to the realization that what we need to do is understand how the world functions, something is definitely wrong with us. My people, I was talking about spheres of influence. Let me come back to it. Anything in the Middle East, you know to deal with Russia and the United States of America. That's what it is. That is their sphere of influence. Middle East, Far East. Anything in Africa, you know to deal with France and Britain. And then China, so the empire of the middle, like they say, is also today challenging the status quo. But not yet from the viewpoint of power, but more from the viewpoint of the economy. But Russia has decided to challenge the current world order. And that is why I now want to share this other tweet. Because Malians, because the people of Central African Republic, and because the people of Burkina Faso have told themselves we are tired with France, tired with the niceties on the British who just sit by and watch, tired, perhaps, with the approach of the United States that is prone to following its allies, to wanting to work and be nice to its allies, France and Britain, they are turning their attention now towards Russia. And my sister, our sister, Rebecca Enochong says, I hate this idea where we have to prefer one foreign power over another. They have their own national interests first. Russia is no better than any others. Let's work on pro-African sentiments. Sister Rebecca Enochong is not wrong. But unfortunately, she is not realistic. She's living in an ideal world. In Africa, we haven't yet come to terms with the fact that we can do it ourselves. We haven't yet come to terms with the fact that we can be able to settle down and resolve our own affairs. That is why ECOWAS remains a tool in the hands of France and Britain. That is why CEMAC remains absolutely in the tool, a tool in the hands of France. That is why the African Union is in the hands of France and Britain. If anything is happening anywhere in Africa, if these powers don't say a thing, the African Union will be mute. Has the African Union said anything about what's happening in the southern Cameroons? If you are doubting, answer to this question. ECOWAS can't because they are talking about West Africa, where in Central Africa, has CEMAC, the last institution to ever make one statement about this will be CEMAC. Why? Because CEMAC is an institution in the hands of France. The African Union Commission is run by a citizen of CEMAC. That is why you will never hear anything. Even UNOCA is run by a citizen of CEMAC. You will never hear anything. Now, this is why, when I went on Twitter, because I responded to Sister Rebecca. And of course, I got the rest of the world to know, because I brought in the US president, in short, even including the president of France and the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in the United Kingdom, to tell them the world must know that France has wronged Africa so much so that we are ready to embrace even the devil to help us get them out. Her allies must stop closing eyes on France's atrocities in Africa. It is pushing us towards Russia. Why? I'm trying here to tell Sister Rebecca Enochong, we are not oblivious to the fact that Russians too have their own realities. I am not yet even saying we should rush towards Russia, because there are still a lot of nice people out there in some of the countries of the world, and we have seen the United States willing to step up and see a peaceful resolution of the situation in the southern Cameroons. But we have to play our part. But I want to say, those countries already running towards Russia, and it's not excluded that someday we may also find ourselves doing that, is because they need anyone that will help them kick away France before you sit and start talking with them. This is the reality. Because no one doubts that France has become the cancer for Africa's growth. And all of what is happening in southern Cameroons is because of France. So my people, rather than go sit around and be talking inanities and be making claims about leadership or no leadership, I'm in charge, I will tax this, I will tax that, if you don't do this, come on. This is the time for us to recognize, like the majority of the people are saying out there, I read. I go to Facebook, I read. I go to WhatsApp, I read. I go to Twitter, I read. A good lot of our people are saying today, we need to reset. If there is need to reset, it is not time for yet the beginning of another hegemonic war. Because this time, you will meet some of us resolutely on your path. Enough of this stupidity. Sorry to use the word, but that is what it is. I have said here before that I will no longer be afraid of words. I haven't been since 2017 though, but perhaps I need to go one notch up, me, as an individual, but always seeking to fall within the framework of the we that is required to take us forward. It is we that will take us forward, not I. And that's why I will continue to quote Steve Biko, that I'm going to be me as me. Beat me, jail me, or even kill me. But I'm not going to be what you want me to be. I'm not going to accuse. I'm not going to sit silent when people, because of egos, are trying to rob us of the single wonderful opportunity that we have to deliver freedom to our people. No. 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 A lot of our people fall for these things because, like Malcolm X says, a man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. Some still find themselves today defending the position of government. No, it wouldn't help us. Before I came into this broadcast, I noticed that Scarf had picked a video, a production I released in 2017, raising some pertinent issues, cut an extra and put it out there. And I've received too many calls to do, people asking. And people saying that there is already talk in some quarters, people saying, I don't know how the 34th resolution filtered in. And they asked me, and I said, but wait a minute. I will speak to it. I won't stay silent at some point because I'm frightened by somebody, no. I will speak to it. The truth is, Article 34 does not exist in the resolutions in Zaria. At least we're all agreed on that now. When the delegates who were rigged into the place to foster an agenda voted even the resolutions, they ended at 33. I wasn't inside there because some of us, they called Nigerian police and soldiers to bundle us out after I ran away from Cameroonian police and soldiers to Nigeria. My fellow Southern Cameroonians called Nigerian police and soldiers to bundle us out. But when they sat through, even then, they voted 33 resolutions. It is some of them. A good lot of them were shocked to see resolution 34 dissolving SCACUF. They said it was never discussed. The idea was never even brought up. It was not raised. It was smuggled into the resolutions. And today someone asked, who could have done that? Because people are now saying they don't know and are pointing accusing fingers at some lady. I said, no, stop that. There was a secretariat. There was a Secretary General of the Governing Council who organized and ran the conclave. He ran the secretariat. Anything that happened in that secretariat happened under his watchful eyes and approval. Don't come asking funny questions today. No. It is the same pattern that has led us to where we are today. Because we want to close eyes and something is so glaring, we come asking questions. Why should we be asking me such a question? Can you tell us those who informed you? And because we are finding out who was handling the secretariat, as if there was no Secretary General of the Governing Council, as if there was not someone who organized and ran the conclave, who ran and managed the secretariat. We will start asking these kind of questions. It betrays again that simple fact that as a people, we simply may not know what we are doing. I want to end by saying those of you who have gone to social media to celebrate the difficulties that our fellow Unity Warriors faced, because you said the so-called Unity Warriors, that because they refuse to be under your chapel, because they refuse to serve you, and say they want to serve Ambazonia, to serve Southern Cameroons, you celebrate that they were in difficulties. Because of that, I want to tell you that you will be ashamed tomorrow, because that is the way we will go today. Nobody will turn it over. I see some of you feeling so insecure that people on Ground Zero want to organize themselves. Feeling so insecure that people on Ground Zero want to pick who will coordinate them, who will help them run their activities. Feeling so insecure that they've decided to work together and not to fall under your whims and caprices. It may be a political struggle, but it is not politics that will take us to the negotiation table. Is what they are doing. Otto von Clausewitz says, in definition of war, that war is a continuation of politics by other means. By other means. If politics could resolve this, would all our movements out here would long have resolved it. It is true that it starts with politics, fails, goes through war, and returns to politics. That is what it is. But don't be oblivious of the fact that the people who are sacrificing to get us where we have to get to have the right to organize themselves. And none of you will stop them. By claiming some people it's out of weakness or out of whatever that they're asking people on ground zero to organize a coup. Really? So just by saying people should organize themselves is a coup, everything is a coup. Coup over what? What power? Let's get a country first. Say the Bible, seek ye first the kingdom and its righteousness, and all other things shall be added unto you. Let's seek to get a country first. By the time we offer ourselves that country, you have the chance to do politics. For now, sorry. It is time for us to reset. Yes. It's time for us to do what is right, so we can get our people what they expect of us. Freedom. Freedom. And freedom alone. Why were they making all the noise? Look at this. I see on the Guardian post, General Nobiti's ex-girlfriend still in detention 1 month after a judge sitting in a courtroom ruled that she should be granted bail. Why should they be afraid of us? Why should they be afraid of us? If all we know how to do is spend time fighting each other, is spend time claiming leadership, is spend time claiming I'm in charge, I'm not in charge, I'm this, we will attract respect when we begin to do things right. There is power in unity, and there is power in togetherness. That is our force, and let's exploit it. Thank you so much for taking time off to spend with me on this broadcast. Enjoy the rest of your evening.